We're going to talk a little bit about miniatures prep and assembly because it's the first thing that you're concerned with when you open up a package of new miniature. What am I going to do? Oh, look, wait, there's stuff hanging off of it. Oh no. Pleased to say, Dark Sword miniatures don't require a lot of prep and assembly. They're usually only in 1 or 2 parts, and they're very clean casts in general, but we're still going to take you over basically what you use.
So I have my saw very carefully lined up against the bottom of the foot here, and there's enough room to get it in. There, I've tried to take off miniatures that have the base sculpted up against the shoe. That can be a little more tricky, and that usually involves a little green stuff, but this should come off really nicely. I like to start out painting the face and the flesh of the model first, and then work up to clothing and then to other parts, so if I get a little sloppy, I can clean it up as I go along.
So my rule on base coating is just start at one edge and move around the figure. And this is going to mean that you shouldn't get any clumping because you are always working against what we'll call the wet edge. You are never going over here and painting over here and then coming, by the time you come back around here, this might be dry. And if it is, you might get some clumpiness there where you try to paint over it. So instead, just always work against that wet edge. Start at one side, and you can do this on faces, you can do this on everything.
That is one of the secrets to getting your paint nice and smooth, is either let it dry completely or make sure it's still wet when you're moving it.
Yes, and so this is another reason to use a big brush, by the way. You hear all these terms, you hear washes and glazes and layering and blending and wet on wet and dry on.
And everybody tends to have their own definition of what is this and what is that. There's also a big difference between these terms as used in fine art or maybe what you heard in art school and how we apply them to a 3D miniature.
Exactly. Now I'm going to do half of this in that heavy wash. I'm going to put a little water in it, and I'm going to show you a little bit lighter wash. So once I've got that, I'll do that down here. Yeah, you see that's much lighter, but it's still filling it really nice. So think about what you want to do and how much you want your underlying surface colored with washes. Both of these are valid washes.
Well, the next step after I get the face and the flesh all done is very often painting the hair, and I use a lot of the same techniques for painting the hair and feathers, and we'll show you some of these. I'm going to start with about half and half of my walnut and my icy gray. Little paint on my brush. This is Anne and I call this damp brushing sometimes as opposed to dry brushing. And just edge along that crown, catching the raised strands.
I don't like dry brushing. Damp brushing doesn't ruin your brush.
Much gentler.
Yes. More controlled as well.
And because the paint's more fluid, it'll go on a lot more smoothly. Along that little ridge. And there is our black hair with a nice clean shine on it.